My name is Wolf, and today we are back with Our Life Beginning and Always with Derek's epilogue. Mild conversation followed on and off about appropriately mellow topics, such as the weather, how pleasant the drive there had been. Between the moments were quiet resting. As leisurely as the pace was, so instead he could still win the race. He had a full loop around the park and drifted back into the starting bay. Or cove, you might say. You chuckled to yourself as you sunk lower into your tube. The ride was so relaxing you'd begun to fall into that kind of special half-awake humor. For hours there was nothing in the world but water, fun, dark, and even more water. There was no work to be done or places to be. You had to do nothing but whatever you felt like doing. You ran with every bit of enjoyment until time caught up to your heels. Light was starting to wane as the sun hid behind the towering slides. Drifting and wet through thoroughly, sprinkled you and Derek scampered over to the lockers. Carrying the knob was no easy feat in your current states, but you needed towels and money. After a long day in the water, you were starving. You ignored the grumbles in your stomach to focus as much as possible on keeping your grip with slippery fingers. Finally, you managed to break open the safe, access the goods inside. You plucked up the towel that had been resting on top of your clothing pile. It was an inspired piece of forethought to make it as accessible as possible. If only you'd considered taking your wallet out of your pocket ahead of time. You made good use of the towel until your hands were dry for the first time, and you weren't sure how long. Then you started to dig for your money. Derek leaned back on his heels and craned his neck to look past the socket door to you. Ready to eat? Just one more second. After a final awkward tug, you succeeded in worming out the wallet from its fabric cocoon. There we go! With a flick of your wrist, you closed your locker. Getting dressed could wait. A second clattering slam followed right after. Derek shut his too. He tossed his neon towel over his shoulder, like a shawl, then folded his arms.
Well,
Honestly, the food here isn't bad. The theme park restaurants, at least. It's worth trying. That's good. A decent meal is all I needed right now. You made your you made like your wallet and securely wrapped yourself in a towel. It was dampened instantly, but it was still very cozy. Derek hooked his arm across your shoulders, pulling you in towards him. He looped your own arm right about. He looped your own arm around his back. His body heat was especially pleasant while soaking wet and standing in the cool evening air. He made a break for the central area where the poolside restaurant was set. The towels rippled in the wind, and your feet slapped against the concrete path. You felt as free as bird and all 13-year-olds. The water park restaurant had only outdoor seating and a small shack where food was prepared, but the rich, savory scents wafting from the siding opening on the front of the building convinced you more than enough. Once you and Derek got to the window, you wasted no time in your orders, paying and setting up camp at the closest available table.
so
So, feel comfortable for the wait, resting his chin on his fist, looking across the table at you with a cheeky grin. How are you feeling about this whole arrangement after our first official outing? Feel like set up a salary you can fill out? I'll give you 5 stars.
thanks.
Whoa, thanks! The teasing interview came to an end before it began. He instead shifted to lean fully back against the white plastic chair, chuckling contentedly. It's been a long time since I've gone to a park, this one or any others. I'm always busy, right? Too busy. We should do it more often. I agree. His cheeks and eyes lifted, pleased. You were more grateful than ever to be there at the water park, in the state you grew up in, and at the side of your boyfriend. Your meal soon arrived and was finished briskly. Something had made you entirely famished. The Your post-food conversations were cut off with you and Derek, and every single person in the vicinity. It began with an echoing ballad of the entire park, then transitioned into a spoken message. The employee announced as cheerfully as possible that the park was closing soon, and all guests needed to get out of the pools. Derek glanced up at the sky in the general direction where the disembodied voice came from.
I swear.
Man, it went by so fast. At least it was really nice while it lasted. We can make tomorrow good too. There was something wondering in his gaze. There was something in his wondering gaze, and the playful spark of his lips. The conversation had all. Oh my god. There was something else in his wondering gaze, and the playful quirk of his lips. The end of the occasion had skipped all the other stages of drinking, gone straight to acceptance for Derek. Tomorrow is. Well, I have a feeling it won't be too hard to have some fun. He watched him with intrigue, fully expecting him to. He watched him with intrigue, fully expecting to be let in on what kept his spirits so high, but he merely grinned you away and explained nothing. Still, the approaching closure of the parks spurred the both of you on. It wouldn't be responsible to dawdle. The trash was thrown out. You jumped in the shower for a brief wash before changing into your actual clothes again back into Derek's car. It was late by the time he parked in once more in his designated spot for the common complex. But all the remainder of the night was passed in a peaceful relaxation around the apartment before collapsing into bed. Early the next day, you lazily hung around the apartment. Derek was showering after the gym, and you both already had a quick breakfast. It was a true change of pace to have a slow morning, a slow day on your trip. You welcomed the break. Derek wanted to pop over to his parents' house once more. He was still itching to get his hands on Nico's Switch, but there was a buying schedule besides that. No long travel, promises to fulfill, all plans to keep up with. To balance out the one free day, the next was set to be extra full. Tomorrow you'll be leaving Prison Vista City. Your bus tickets were already purchased. You needed to pack and prepare, and somehow do everything you could want before it was too late. Truly grasping your own departure wasn't easy. So much happened, but it felt way too fast, like an anticipated audiobook set to 5 times the normal speed. Your life with Derek was very nearly only a memory. Your adventure at the water park had taken you right. Your adventure at the water park had taken a place in your mind right by the time you went to the boardwalk with the Suarez family. Whether it was years ago or only a day ago, was over. Being closer in time made it no reachable in the present. A cherry hollow from the hole shook you out of your own head before you could get entirely lost in it. Hey, Callie, I'm ready to go. Cool, I'm all set. I'm glad we could visit. I want to spend time with the boys and your parents while I can. Totally. His eyes twinkled boyishly as he grinned at you. Your lips cracked with the infectious enthusiasm. Everyone there is looking forward to seeing you. Come on! Derek led the charge out the front door, which he locked behind him, and onward until you arrived at the other Suarez front door. He rang the bell, but didn't have to wait before Mrs. Suarez's eager face appeared. The expectant smile was identical to the one you wore when you first reunited.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Derek. Callie, welcome back. He ushered the two of you inside with as much gumption as your original arrival as well. Before you could question that curiosity, you were covered by another. The living room you had been led into was entirely empty, aside from you and Derek and his mom. 3 Suarez men were missing. Clary could be on his way, Nicholas might be waiting for guests in his bedroom, and perhaps Mr. Suarez needed to use the bathroom. Separately, any of those possibilities made sense, yet all of them being the case Yet all of them being the case at once felt odd. Did we have come later? No, your timing is perfect. She smiled at you wider, but the leading tone in her voice and the Nicholas-esque gleam in her eyes wasn't particularly comforting. It only made you more certain something was going on. Now my head feels light. You were going to ask, but the words slammed against the back of your throat when Clara and Nico sprung up from behind the chair. Surprise! How they fit? That's what really got you. The Swara's living room wasn't suited for hiding. The boys must have been laying on the ground pressed together, and you had been positioned in the exact right angle to not see them tucked away there. Your wide-eyed expression was their reward. The two jumping jacks laughed openly, and even the kind Miss Suarez clapped her hands in satisfaction at your slack jaw. What was this surprise for? You stammered out the question, still in the daze from the entirely unexplained jump scare. What do you think, genius? The voice sharpened was unmistakable. You hadn't managed to blink since the younger Suarez shout, and the trend continued. Pointing your dry eyes towards the kitchen, you had to wonder if you were seeing things. Somehow, magically, your older sister had appeared out of thin air to leer at you smugly over the counter. The laws of space and time were no consideration when it came to teasing you. Liz? Duh! Of course, that somewhat wasn't their idea. You rushed over and hugged her. You ripped your feet from where they were. You ripped your feet from where they had taken root and flung your arms around the delicate shoulders of your only big sister. She held you back and flipped her bright orange ponytail over her shoulder like he was donning a scarf of the finest silk. Got you? Yep, she had, and you couldn't be happier. The persistent self-satisfaction Liz had radiated throughout the room was veiled into a softer, more genuine pleasure. How good to see you, kiddo. So, you weren't busy, were you? No. That was merely a ploy. I'm never too busy for you. Or a bonus trip where all I had to do was show up. Huh? What do you mean? Liz laughed with an all-knowing air. It was a sound you're very familiar with. I do love you. But I wasn't gonna arrange an entire trip to join you now, when I already had to prepare one for Mom's party in less than a month. You can thank your beefcake friend for handling the details, and his parents for letting me know to borrow their guest room. That's how it happened. He's nosy as well as persistent. Derek was involved? You had found nothing could shock you after Liz's reveal, but you had been proven wrong. The man who suddenly had a spotlight thrown on him did with awkward stiffness. His arms were folded so tight the form might have been chiseled out of stone. Is that supposed to be a compliment or an insult?
No.
Neither. It's the truth.
Might try.
I'm gonna take that in the positive way then. Good for you. Derek, you really helped Liz with her trip out here. Derek's grin shrunk shyly. The decision to view his actions in a good light were being put to test now. That was your decision to talk about them. The sibling group wouldn't have been complete without Liz. Who knows if she would have time to come to the city during her mother's anniversary. Nicholas and Clary missed her. Especially Borges. Nico shut out that commentary without looking away from his phone. Clary glad, completely unseen by the target of daggers, but he didn't vocalize his disagreement with the statement. And we figured you wouldn't mind seeing your sister when she came by, so we watched that. Surprise! Derek Suarez, you are too nice.
I got you.
I'd say I'm not exactly nice enough. The bashfulness crept over his features, even more though. Like Derek's general perspective, it was a good kind of bashful rather than a bad one. He was pleased with himself. And then, the door at the very end of the hall burst open. The entire room simultaneously peered in that direction. Surprise! Mr. Suarez had finally made an appearance of his own, and it was an entrance. He waved his hands in the air and walked over with a jaunty high step. The parade of unexpectedness that day was endless. Before you could even ask the question, Mrs. Suarez explained what was that was about. Mr. Suarez was going to be behind the counter. However, I banished him to his bedroom until he was certain his scheme was finished. He was laughing too much, and he was going to ruin it. I was about to get him myself, but he managed to figure that out. Every single one of Mr. Suarez's sons nodded in support of their mother's decision, including Derek. He wasn't there when it happened. He must have been able to imagine it easily enough. Yes, I didn't get to stay, but I could still join a little late. It's an extra surprise. That's making lemons into lemonade. You never had a reason to wonder how Derek ended up with such optimism.
That's what I like to hear.
Very good. Thank you for being a good sport, my wonderful husband.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, lovely wife. And welcome to you, Callie and Derek. We're all here.
Right.
That's right, we are. The Wolf and Suarez family enjoyed a mini reunion of affection before eventually things settled back into a casual atmosphere. The addition of Liz into the mix was truly seamless. Clary and his parents bustled around the kitchen to cook their own late breakfast. They had no time for food while waiting to make a grand reveal. Nicholas elected to help by not getting in the way. He sat at the table with his face on his phone. The youngest had been completely sucked into a screen in a way you hadn't seen before. You stuck with your sister on the couch. Derek flanked on her other side. She recounted her travel adventures, including how at one point she had to ride a bus, and it actually took the wrong turn. Since when did bus drivers take the wrong route? Liz demanded of the air. Her long list of points worth noting continued right up until a new announcement was cheerily made. Food's done! Hooray! Eggs, sausages, and well-seasoned diced potatoes, then fed with fresh fruits available on the side. The whole room smelled of pepper, garlic, and a host of other savory spices. Jack already ate, and Liz politely passed on the meal. She had way too many snacks during the overnight trip, and couldn't possibly have another bite. You didn't know about them, but you weren't ever going to pass on the free food. Your very kind host stood aside so you could get your meal fast. You didn't want to keep them waiting by disagreeing with the order. You got off your seat, filled out the dish with some breakfast, and returned to your place beside Liz. Right before Clary's butt made contact with his seat, he paused in midair.
Oh.
Oh, wait. I forgot the chili flakes.
It's no
That-
problem.
Said, I've got you. Derek winked at his little bro, and said, younger brother plopped down on the chair. Scrambled legs piled high on Clary's plate jiggled. Derek pushed off the cushions and took a few long strides into the kitchen, and retrieved the cube of deep-fried edible confetti. Rather than walk to the table, Derek stayed right where he was and lobbed Clary's chili flakes over the counter. Heads up! The receiver snatched it right out of the air. Clary looked at the item now in his hand and chuckled. Good pass. I'm not rusty yet. Derek saluted from the distance as Clary began to deliberately sprinkle chili flakes over every part of his meal. At the other end of the dark wood tabletop, another familial exchange occurred. Mrs. Suarez rubbed her littlest child's bowed back and spoke to him gently. Nico, are you eating? Her sweetness got a lukewarm shrug of one shoulder from Nicholas. His phone remained in his grasp at the center of his attention. Food wasn't enough to sway his focus. I'm just gonna have a bowl of cereal. Maybe you should eat more. A bowl of cereal isn't a balanced meal. Once a babysitter, always a babysitter. Is that how it is? Exactly. I am compelled to look out for you. He dared to take his eyes off the screen for long enough to roll them.
Fine.
Fine, Harry, give me some of your eggs.
Okay.
Fine. I'd usually tell you to get your own, but I'll do it because babysitter wants you to eat. Thank you. Mrs. Suarez gave the teen one final pat and left it there. She was content that at least he wasn't going hungry. Unexpectedly, your ears picked up the small squeak and then the unmistakable rush of running water. Once again, your gaze went to the opposite side of the room. Derek's back was turned to the crowd, and the clang that he was making continued with the clang of pans. The actual reason why Derek had gone to the kitchen and stayed there became evident. He intended to wash the dishes. Boo! Nowhere but the Suarez house was such a gesture to be met with swift dissent. But Derek and his impulse to do everything for everyone was infamous.
Please, don't worry.
Son, you are our guest. And you didn't even eat. You can't be the one who cleans up. Liz acted mostly as an observer to the family circus, though couldn't help asking about it under her breath. What an absolute menace of politeness. Derek Suarez, get back over here. Your justifiable demand didn't go unheard. Hallie.
Oh.
Derek's face turned just enough to peek at you. A tiny frown pulled at the corners of his mouth. I'm serious, you better not wash those dishes. Fine. With drooping shoulders, his head hung low, and dragging steps, Derek retreated from the kitchen. What wasn't low anymore was the angle of his mouth that had perked upwards.
My thoughts exactly.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Mr. Suarez Jr. gave a round of applause. The oldest one left the sponge behind. As soon as breakfast at the Suarez home was finished, Nico did put his phone down long enough for cereal and milk into a bowl and eat. The kitchen was cleared by Harry and his parents. Derek remained seated with his idle hands in his lap like a proper guest. He had always been at your home growing up. Your gaze drifted across the room of relaxed faces. He knew all of them well. Your family. It was a perfect moment to let Liz on. It was a perfect moment to let Liz in on just how strong the relation between you and another person had become. You had plenty of vigor, but you almost at the threshold. It struck you that a couple of hours ago, you were saying you'd have to talk to Liz about Derek over the phone whenever she was free. But thanks to your new boyfriend, you could do it in person. He'd done it all before you were even together. He cared about you no matter what. You never wanted to take that for granted, and you were gladly going to return the favor of Liz's surprise with a reveal of your own. Leaning forward, you made direct eye contact with Derek. His brows rose. You got his attention. Even if so, you turned your head towards your sister. Derek's face scrunched, trying to decipher the gesture. You kept nudging your chin her way. You glanced down from him to Liz. It finally hit him. Derek's features brightened and he threw his thumbs out. And he threw out a thumbs up. What?
Oops.
Oops. So much for sanity. But you need to get his attention, so that could be rolled with. Oh, Lizzie, I've got some news for you. Me and Derek might get married. Derek moved his hand across the space to place it on your shoulder. It was steady. You weren't sure what you were expecting, but she cackled. That probably should have been foreseeable. That was the best joke she had heard in ages, apparently. Her smile faltered as Derek explained further. It's true. I asked Callie to marry me if we were both single when we were 23. I was 13 at the time. Yeah, I wasn't mature as I pretended to be. Derek's face flushed, and he showed one eye. His characteristic grin survived the wave of embarrassment.
Whatever works.
Still, it is what it is. We're gonna see how it goes. The official deadline is the end of summer. The announcement made him... That announcement had done the impossible. It made Liz speechless. For a moment, she could only gawk in disbelief. Honestly, what you were asking her to accept was a bit ridiculous. But all trace of shock was swiftly replaced by a bold was swiftly replaced by a bald as brass smirk, as to be expected from your big sister. Her eyes narrowed into tiny slits, yet you could still see them gleam.
Okay.
Ah, it all makes sense. You got me out here to be a witness to your secret contractual union. Very sneaky, Suarez. The jab couldn't penetrate Derek's armor of confidence. He felt no shame about bringing Liz to Prism Vista City. I think they might have done a little spelling mistake with Prism Vista City. Oh well. We all are human, so I'm gonna just shrug it off. There's been plenty of mistakes around.
Nah.
Nah, you'll be shipped home before the consideration process is over. But if Callie wants you to be there in a couple of months, I'll see what I can do about planning another trip. What a gentleman. Congrats on your upcoming new Bittles. Both of you. The maybe it won't be happen for real line was obviously a pretense. She couldn't completely remove the wariness that was natural to her face. When she looked at you again, her eyes were soft. I cannot possibly imagine how romancing Mr. Let me do that for you over here wouldn't work out.